In today's video, we're going to look at 10 wrestlers who got fired for dumb reasons. This could be a dumb reason why the company fired them, or it could be a dumb reason why they got themselves fired. Let's not waste any time. At number 10, it's Finlay. Finlay was fired after an incident at a house show in the run-up to WrestleMania 27. Producer Finlay organised a ploy to get some heat on The Miz, where he would interrupt the national anthem. While it did give the desired reaction, there were also members of the National Guard in attendance that night. Word got back to Vince McMahon and Finlay was fired. The good news is though, Finlay got his job back the following year. Number 9. Buff Bagwell. Buff has disputed these claims, but many others have confirmed it did indeed happen. Apparently, Buff Bagwell's mother would constantly phone WWE headquarters complaining about her son's travel schedule and the fact that Buff needed time off to heal some injuries. Adding to this that Buff was already quite disliked backstage didn't help matters, and he was fired before his WWE career really began. Number 8. Arn Anderson. Arn was fired because of someone else's bad habits. Working as a producer backstage, he was tasked with looking after a women's match which featured Alicia Fox at a house show. As the story goes, Alicia was drunk backstage, yet Arn still let her work. Colleagues have said that Fox always appears to be tipsy, and her erratic behaviour backstage means it's sometimes hard to tell if she's on the drink or not. That being said, the accepted story at the moment is it was due to Alicia's antics backstage that the wrestling legend Arn Anderson lost his job as producer in WWE. Number 7. Jimmy Jacobs. Jacobs was a creative writer in WWE. When Bullet Club decided to show up outside an arena where Raw was being held, Jimmy Jacobs went outside and took a selfie with members of the Bullet Club. Jacobs had previously worked with members of Bullet Club throughout his days in the independents. Vince didn't take too kindly to this and fired Jimmy Jacobs. Number 6. Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan made his way over to Raw with the Nexus faction. Nexus were a bunch of hopefuls from the first season of NXT, and they invaded Raw and destroyed everything in their way. The ring, announcers tables, the flooring, everything was wrecked. Justin Roberts was the ring announcer at the time, and he was sitting at ringside during the incident. Daniel Bryan proceeded to choke Roberts with his own tie. He also spat on John Cena, typical good old heel stuff. However, these acts were deemed too violent for WWE's PG-TV, and Bryan was released from his contract for his actions. Number 5. Paul London. As ridiculous as it sounds, Paul London was fired for smiling at Vince McMahon. This was likely the tip of the iceberg though. During a segment where Vince McMahon was about to be blown up in his own limo, Vince was seen walking through the arena corridors with the roster lined up at each side. While the wrestlers were supposed to look somber and worried, Paul London was seen with a giant cheesy grin on his face. This smile would get him fired. Number 4. Muhammad Hassan. Hassan's character was angered that his religion meant he was treated like a second-class citizen in America. The storyline in the character was actually quite well done, and Hassan came across as a natural heel. Towards the end of his run though, men wearing balaclavas helped his cause, and the association with extremists weren't missed by anyone. The London bombing then happened, and the outcry meant that the Hassan character was finished in WWE. Number 3. Alberto Del Rio. Del Rio was once fired for standing up for himself. As the story goes, a WWE web producer was making racist jokes directed at Del Rio. Alberto stood up for himself and slapped the person, but it was Del Rio who got fired. The Wrestling Observer said the following: based on sketchy stories and what wrestlers have been talking about, at catering, someone asked this web producer to clean off his plate. The person joked something along the lines of how that's Del Rio's job. Del Rio found out and confronted him. As the story goes, he didn't apologise and then smiled at him, and Del Rio slapped him. Number 2. Earl Hebner. It's not entirely clear what happened here, but WWE's once head referee Earl Hebner either fraudulently sold knockoff merchandise at shows or out of a store he owned, or he stole merchandise from shows and sold them elsewhere. It's also not 100% clear if Earl was stealing the merchandise from WWE or he was making his own cheap bootleg shirts. Either way, Earl Hebner was fired for selling knockoff WWE goods and he found himself in TNA. Number 1. Disco Inferno. Disco Inferno revealed on an episode of Talk is Jericho that he got fired by Eric Bischoff for refusing to work in the ring against Jacqueline. His reasoning for this is it would be seen as domestic abuse. When he refused to work with a female, Eric Bischoff fired him on the spot. Disco also said that he was lined up for a WWE job as Honky Tonk Man's protege, but this fell through. Disco said that he had good conversations with Jim Cornette about coming into WWE, but it was Bruce Pritchard that put a stop to Disco Inferno joining WWE. Eventually, Sting got Disco his job back in WCW. Apparently, the only way Disco would be allowed back in WCW is if he done a job to Jacqueline. While this does sound extremely petty, Disco did indeed job to Jacqueline at Halloween Havoc 1997. All this is from Disco's own mouth, by the way, so take from that what you will. And that's it, guys, for another episode. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thanks and see you again.